His Excellency Kamalesh Sharma, who is the Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations, and who has been visiting us here in St. Kitts and Nevis from the 11th to the 14th of May. The Federation has the honor to receive His Excellency, the Secretary General, who has previously served as India's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, where he was closely involved in Commonwealth activities. He has been to St. Kitts and Nevis before, during the period when he was preparing himself for the task that he now pursues. We are very, very pleased to have him here. We believe that the Commonwealth of Nations is a very important international community, an organization that St. Kitts and Nevis cherishes its membership with. As a small island state, we feel very much privileged to be an integral part and an equal part of this organization, sitting at the same table with very large nations from around the world. The Commonwealth has been one of the bedrocks in the continued development of St. Kitts and Nevis, especially through the period of transition that St. Kitts and Nevis has undergone, as we have transitioned out of a nation of 400 years of producing sugar and selling it to Europe to one that is now very much on its way with an economy that is being fueled by services. The technical support, the training that has been provided from the Commonwealth speaks volumes. It is at this point then I would ask His Excellency to address you and to have you afterwards ask questions and give you the opportunity, of course, to receive answers as to the future of the Commonwealth, the future relationship with St. Kitts and Nevis, and what the Commonwealth is doing at the moment for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, very much. I was honored to be received so warmly during my visit to St. Kitts and Nevis, and I depart with an enriched and first-hand appreciation of a valued member of the Commonwealth, its national challenges and priorities. The Prime Minister was kind enough to spare a lot of time for our conversations, and I was also grateful for the leadership in general, which made time available for me. And I had the pleasure of meeting the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for Justice and Foreign Affairs, Ministers for Youth Empowerment, Sports, Information, the Minister for Health, Culture and Gender, Attorney General. I also call on the Leader of the Opposition and the Premier of Nevis. Commonwealth thinks of itself as a leading global organization in this solidarity and commitment which it shows to the small states of the world. In its Marlborough House Declaration of 2008, it has clearly enunciated the principle of equity and inclusiveness in attending to the world's problems. that all human communities, irrespective of size, have an equal right to a place in the sun, to a voice, and to be heard, and to have their problems looked at seriously by the world community. It is in keeping with the brand strength which the Commonwealth has in promoting the concerns of the small states of the world that we have taken the initiative in establishing a high-level mission on small states' debt this year, which will be a small group of Commonwealth leaders who will carry forward international profile raising and advocacy about the challenges of debt and liquidity faced by small states, and to look at practical approaches to overcome their challenges. I am very pleased to announce that the Prime Minister has kindly accepted my invitation to chair and lead this Commonwealth high-level mission, which among its activities will meet in Washington in October for discussions in particular with the leaders of key international financial institutions and Commonwealth and G20 economies. The mission will then report the outcomes of its work to the next Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Colombo in Sri Lanka in November this year. On the bilateral side, St. Kitts and Nevis has been a long-standing contributor to the shared resources of the association through its contributions to the Commonwealth Fund for Technical Cooperation, or CFTC. The country's partnership with CFTC has generated significant returns in terms of technical assistance, and I would just like to mention some of the headline cooperation that we have entered into. The ongoing international technical expertise to define and negotiate this country's maritime boundaries with St. Eustatius, and to finalize exclusive economic zone boundaries with St. Barthélemy, Antigua and Montserrat. The development of a marketing plan, including strategies to promote the services sector, which is a strength of its economy internationally. Since 2010, the Commonwealth has supported the Caribbean Telecommunications Union to help establish the Caribbean Center of Excellence as a self-sustaining and revenue-generating institution, and to help St. Kitts and Nevis use ICTs more effectively for development. The provision of technical experts in trade negotiations based at the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States in St. Lucia, in legislative drafting based in the CARICOM Secretariat in Guyana, and in climate change based at the Caribbean Climate Change Center in Guyana. Support for the judiciary, including training in the investigation and prosecution of complex transnational crimes, and strengthening capacity in St. Kitts and Nevis on combating money laundering. Public service training, such as leadership enhancement for 10 senior civil servants, including 8 newly appointed permanent secretaries. Debt assistance in the form of software and technical expertise to undertake financial and payment modeling in order to manage public debt. And the development of a common tourism policy for the OECS, including deployment of an expert who has helped to achieve the completion of a partial scope trade agreement for St. Kitts and Nevis with Brazil. As a result of my visit, we have agreed to deepen the Commonwealth's partnership and collaboration with St. Kitts and Nevis in the years ahead in the areas of supporting the culture and institutions of democracy. There have been recommendations made in the past by Commonwealth election observers, and significant progress has been made in some of them, and we are very happy to be supportive of this very important and crucial sector in deepening democracy. In the area of youth, the Commonwealth is progressively becoming an ever younger organization in its age profile. This is the case here in St. Kitts and Nevis, as it is the case in many other member states. People who are young in this country already constitute more than 60% of the population. We would therefore be very happy to work with the government in the establishment of a national youth policy as well as a national youth council, just as these are being established or advanced in other Commonwealth member states in recognition of their critical importance. In respect of human rights, we are happy to assist in following up on those recommendations from the last United Nations Universal Periodic Review in Geneva, which have been accepted by St. Kitts and Nevis, particularly the establishment of a national human rights institution that has international A status in accordance with the Paris Principles. And there were other areas for continuing technical cooperation that were agreed upon. Thank you very much indeed, Prime Minister, for affording me this opportunity to be able to give this information, which is, I believe, of interest to the citizens of this country when they consider the partnership of this country with the Commonwealth. And I thank you once again for very kindly accepting our offer to lead this, what will be a very important high-level initiative for the Commonwealth for the debt problem of small states.
Thank you very much, members of the media. Ask the questions, identify the media outlet.
Jason Davis, ZIZ Radio and TV. I was just hoping to get a bit more information about three of the particular sections that you mentioned that were discussed. One, could you break down a bit more what this high-level mission that the Prime Minister will be chairing, what would be its functions, what exactly would this mission be doing? Could you tell us a bit more about the Caribbean Center of Excellence to use ICTs more effectively? And a bit more about the National Human Rights Institution.
Yes, happily. As far as this high-level mission is concerned, this is to emphasize the situation in which middle-income small countries very often find themselves when under pressure of the global challenges, particularly the global financial disorder that has been created some years ago. There is a need for an organized and a consolidated way of looking at the terrain of the challenges, as well as to come out with solutions which can be looked at by international financial institutions and the global financial community. As far as the human rights body is concerned, there is a human rights accreditation process whereby, depending upon what you are able to do in the context of your national human rights institutions, you get a classification which is either A, B, or C. One of the particular strengths of the Commonwealth is that it works with the national human rights organizations of its member states to create national capacity and resilience in this area and to help them build their capacity in this field. So we are prepared, because it is an undertaking which the country has given itself in moving forward. Please remind me about your other questions. You had a string of 4 or 5.
The Center of Excellence.
Well, the solutions which are coming forward more and more in the field of development are now ICT-based, progressively. People are saying that there is a digital bridge to overcome the development divide. A lot of what we are doing in the Commonwealth is also based on ICT and digitization. For instance, we have Commonwealth Connects, which is a cloud-based web platform which we have developed for the Commonwealth specifically, which already has about 100 subscribers from the Commonwealth communities of practice. So the ICT as a tool for economic, social, and political advancement in all our member states is now accepted by us as something which should be encouraged. We are very happy to work with regional efforts in order to avoid duplication, which are going on in this area, and see how effective we can be. I am certain that in Commonwealth Connects, which is our platform, it will be possible for the CARICOM and for member states themselves to log on and create workspaces which is of benefit to themselves.
What was the third thing you had?
National Human Rights Institute.
Oh, okay. Tony Frederick, Win FM Radio. Your Excellency, we know that the Commonwealth has been written to by the opposition of St. Kitts and Nevis in regards to the pending motion of no confidence. I was wondering, because I know you've met with the Speaker, you've met with the Honourable Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, what advice do you have for, or have you given to the Prime Minister, the Speaker and the Opposition Leader in regards to the pending motion of no confidence, and why, if you're able to say?
These are constitutional and parliamentary processes which every member state has to work through themselves and find a resolution to in the national interest. It is not for the Secretary-General to be advising member states on their own domestic political situations which are better attended by themselves through these processes.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Your Excellency, you spoke in your op-ed that you sent prior to coming down about advancing democracy, advancing democracy being a shared goal. Can you explain what you meant about that? And like you said, in response to Mrs. Frederick's question, that the Secretariat does not get involved in, island affairs, country affairs. How does it relate, though? Because if it's a common body and there's expected that there are shared goals and concerns, how does that play out?
The shared goals are reflected in a series of statements of value and principle which the Commonwealth has made ever since the Singapore Declaration of 1971. But they are now consolidated in an affirmation of our values, which was done actually in a Caribbean CHOGM in Port of Spain, and most recently in a charter which was signed a couple of months ago by Her Majesty. At the heart of the Commonwealth work on deepening democracy is to work with all of these values with member states, particularly through institution building. So whenever I travel, I always make it a point to visit, to the extent it is possible, those institutions which are at the heart of the culture of democracy. These are the Electoral Commission, these are the Human Rights Commission, they can be the Judicial Services Commission, they are, of course, the parliaments, where we have as a partner also the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, the CPA, because the Commonwealth family works through 70 or 80 other organizations as partners as well, and they all work in the same direction. So by working with our member states in entrenching and consolidating the values of democracy through the institutions that give sustainability, resilience, depth, and meaning to democracy is the means which we use the most. But there are also specific proposals which are made to us by member states from time to time, depending upon what their priorities are, and we are very happy to try and respond to these as well.
Can you tell us about some of the other countries that you visited on the trip, and what are their situations compared to St. Kitts as it relates to debt and debt management?
On this trip, I am only visiting St. Kitts and Nevis, but it can be generally said that in the Caribbean region, every country is affected by the debt problem. Small countries are particularly affected by it because they don't have the cushion and the reserves whereby they can meet the global situation to which they have not contributed, whether financial or in the field of environment, very easily.
Would you be able to comment onto what are your thoughts on how St. Kitts has been managing its debt problem?
There was a time when the debt as a proportion of the GNP in this country was 200%. And it's a fact to be welcomed. It is now down to between 130 or 140%. It has not been easy in this country to face a situation where over nearly 5 consecutive years you have 5 hurricanes you have to cope with. This is a typical instance of a small country problem. It's just not structural in the way I mentioned it financially, but it's also environmental. And the devastation which can take place, which is out of all proportion to what would happen to a larger country.
You mentioned meeting with at least the Premier and the Deputy Premier in Nevis. Did you meet with any institutions over there, their electoral services, any of their banking sector, anything at all, besides meeting with those two gentlemen?
No, those were the 2 meetings. I did have a tour of the island, but these were the 2 meetings that took place, and I must say that they were very informative to me.
In terms of St. Kitts, you mentioned the individuals that you met with. Have you visited our electoral offices, spoken to our electoral commission officers, anything of that nature?
The persons I have met are the persons I enumerated here, but it was not that long ago when we observed an election here and were able to make very specific recommendations. And that was an electoral observation group of 3 people. So the fact that on a visit by me, which has to be necessarily limited to a day and a half, the fact that I cannot personally meet everyone doesn't mean that the Commonwealth has not been meeting the people concerned and drawing the lessons which are needed as far as partnership and support from the Commonwealth is concerned.
All right. Members of the media, I'd like to thank you very much for participating in this press conference. And again, on behalf of yourselves, I'm sure, on behalf of the government and the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, we again thank His Excellency Secretary General Sharma for being here with us on this very important and historic visit. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister, indeed. And thank you, all of you, taking so much interest in my visit.